program on new horizons in food and biotechnology for sustainable development. Today, we are fortunate to have one of the most eminent professors amongst us, Professor Vinay Sharma sir, who has agreed to share his knowledge he gained over the years with us. We welcome you, sir. Now, let me take a few moments to introduce Professor Vinay Sharma sir. Since we have introduced sir in the inaugural session, now I request Professor Vinay Sharma sir to deliver his talk on the topic exploring health in the world of food safety. Over to you, sir.
So, well, good morning. Thanks a lot, Dr. B. Chaudhary. And welcome all the participants, offline as well as online. So I'm well aware that you are going through a very, very exciting series on this workshop, series of lectures on this workshop. And today's topic is on One Health, exploring
Share screen share. I need to share for the online.
Good. So exploring One Health in the world of food safety. Now, incidentally, this happens to be a very important topic of the contemporary times. In fact, the purpose of this lecture is to sensitize about the importance of this topic and the possible consequences in the contemporary era. Because everything is now to be looked holistically, then only we shall be able to find solutions to many problems which are being faced currently in food as well as in food biotechnology as well as the overall in biotechnology. So let's try to understand. I want you to listen intently and try to understand the gravity of the situation that we have today. And so that you are kind of understand everything and then are sensitized and then appropriately you are ready to prepare to take relevant steps when you are into it, when you yourself are doing research, and so on and so forth. I'm not visible. Okay. Is it better now? All right. तो थोड़ा सा अगर
हाइट के हिसाब से थोड़ा सा
should be
okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So let's just start. Now first of all, let's try to understand what One Health is, what it really implies. Now, essentially, it's a paradigm that has emerged from the recognition that well-beings of human, animals, and the entire ecosystem, because everybody is existing within that ecosystem, are interrelated and interdependent. They have not to be looked in isolation. So they have not to be looked in isolation. And therefore, because they have not to be looked in isolation, therefore there is a necessity or there is a need to develop more systematic and cross-sectorial approaches for identifying and responding to the global public health emergencies and other public health threats arising at the human animal ecosystem interface. So this is very important. This is a standard definition of One Health approved by the relevant organizations. And this conveys every meaning. So we have to have three interfaces, the human, the animal, and the ecosystem. They are interacting, constantly interacting with each other. So we cannot address one problem in isolation. If we talk of human health, we have to again look at an entire perspective, the animal as well as ecosystem. If we look for the ecosystem, we have to look as well for the animals as well as the human beings, and similarly for the animals also. So they have to integrate with each other. So it therefore, the second part, it's a collaborative effort. It becomes a collaborative effort of multiple disciplines which work together at different levels, because ultimately the whole world is one.
Let me try once again.
What happened?
Okay, sir, it is showing both. So I have to put once again.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
So therefore, the necessity for a collaborative effort of multiple disciplines coming together and at different levels, not just locally, not just nationally, but globally, it all platforms have to work beyond the geographical boundaries, for instance, of the nations, etc. And then only we can hope to achieve optimal health for the people, for the animals and the environment. So that's in nutshell the message, the first message that we get. And it's a kind of, so we have three major components: the animals, the environment, and the humans, which are constituting one health. They have to be integrated. You have the biological science part of it in animals. You have the veterinary medicine, that is another component. When you talk of the humans, one part is human medicine, but alongside you have also to take social sciences and humanities. And when you talk of environment, the earth sciences, of course, happens to be the major part, but then we have ecology. And all these are leading into engineering efforts put together. All these are, leading to engineering efforts to comparative medicine of, which is being used for human treatment as for animal treatment. So comparative medicine, the knowledge of comparative medicine. So all these, therefore, they coalesce and converge, leading to specific focus directed efforts. So what is our understanding? Why? What is the necessity to do it? What is the rationale behind it? Rationale of One Health? We well understand, and we have so many examples now that the microbes, for instance, which are the major cause of the diseases in human beings as well as in animals. Now, these microbes, majority of the microbes, in fact, are common. So it's not that this microbe would infect only the human beings or it would infect only the animals. So they happen to be common, and they, of course, where they are existing in the same ecosystem. So therefore, there is a perfect logic, and therefore you have to combine efforts. You have to focus not just on one sector in isolation, but together you have to address the entire problem. So that is the scientific background, because these microbes, most of the problems which, the animals are facing in terms of diseases or the humans are facing in terms of diseases, the pathogens which are causing these, diseases, they happen to be common in all of them. So therefore, the address has to be comprehensive, has to be a full address. Now let's try to understand that what are the factors that affect the human and the animal health. And then again, you find, you know, the contemporary developments which are taking place in the modern world are leading to the similar kind of problems in humans as well as the animals. So, for instance, human populations are growing and they are expanding into new geographic areas, as all of us are aware. So as a result, the consequence is that more people they are living in close contact with each other, and therefore the closer contact is providing greater opportunities for the microbes to migrate from one organism to the other, that is from between animals and human beings, because there is a closer proximity. Then, some problem? Okay. So now, many other changes are also happening. Everybody is aware of the climate, how important role this climate is now playing. Everybody has a focus on climate. And, you keep on hearing so many things about the climate. I don't think I need to deliberate upon that. Now, so the Earth has experienced changes in climate and land use both, and that has obviously led to a lot of deforestation and intensive farming practices. Growing population, naturally, where from the cultivated land come? It comes naturally by way of deforestation. That's the favorite that very frequently happens. And then, of course, you have to employ modern, so-called modern farming practices, which may employ the use of, so many toxic substances into agriculture, into our soil, into the environment, and so on. So both these things are happening, and that is leading to the disruptions in the environmental conditions and the habitats which are providing new opportunities, new microbes, new mutations for them to develop and grow. So they are expanding at the cost of the climate. The changes in the climate happens to be work good for them, happens to be positive for them. So that's another problem that we are facing. And in this global era now, the international trade, travel, migration is so easy, which probably you couldn't have thought, let's say, 2 decades or 3 decades earlier. For instance, uh, if you were to travel to one of the European countries, you had to get visa specifically for that country. So if you were to travel to, let's say, for instance, even in 1990s or so, because I used to very often travel to Germany. So if I have to go to another European country, then I have to apply a separate visa for them. I couldn't have gone. But now you have Schengen visa, which is, is granted, of course, for your travel to a specific country, but using that visa, you can then enter in any of the Schengen countries, which essentially means that you can enter as many as I think, I don't know what is the latest figure, maybe 28 or 29 countries of Europe. So it has made the migration so easy. And many countries, you are aware, they are visa free. Even for India, there might be some 15, 20 countries where if you want to travel, you don't require a visa. And if you talk of, let's say, the developed countries like USA and Japan, etc., they are the most visa countries, visa-free countries that wherever they wish to travel, majority of the countries don't ask a visa for them. So therefore, in the contemporary times, the migration has become the travel and the trade, it has become a common practice. Let's say again, if you talk earlier, 2 or 3 decades earlier, you could not find the Indian market as a European market. If you now visit malls, you find that, as if you are visiting a European mall. All types of goods which you thought that, okay, somebody was going abroad, then you ask that person, okay, please bring that thing to me. And it used to be real, very precious gift. If somebody brought you and obliged you for this, it was really a very precious gift, which you otherwise normally couldn't have imagined that you can buy it from the Indian market, even by paying a lot of price. But now everything is available. So what you are getting in the in the malls of, let's say, Paris or Frankfurt, the same thing is available in even in Jaipur, some of the malls. So we have, these boundaries have dissolved both for travel as well as for trade, and that is naturally, therefore, is leading to greater opportunities for microbes as well to travel, for the migration of the human beings, travel of human beings, the diseases which were restricted, let's say, for instance, African continent, that you needed to visit there. So if you wanted to visit to any of the African countries, you required a short of vaccine, specifically for those countries. Some of the diseases were endemic only to those countries. So that is also not happening now. So because of all these restrictions, all these boundaries being dissolved, you find that the diseases which were kind of endemic are now available. They are throughout the globe in all the countries. So that is a great, consequence of this fallout. Obviously, food security problem had to be addressed. That's growing population. So one is that deforestation, but now there are, because of the eco surveillance and because of the awareness, greater awareness, there are more restrictions. So there is a greater focus on the use of, let's say, the so-called the modern farming practices. Employing drone is fine, good for it, or saving water for agriculture is good. Fine, that's the positive side of it, modern agricultural practices, but there are many negative sides, and you are well aware the havoc which the pesticides have played into this. So we have the production, therefore, has gone up because of the so-called modern agricultural practices. All of them are not good. All of them have fatal environmental consequences. In terms of food, 53% is a shot up. Let's say if you talk of 19 years from 2000 to 2019, and then say meat, the production has shot up 44%. So that is what is happening. So then, how can we have more specific? Can we be more specific and talk of more specific examples of some of the potent, some of the lethal microbes, lethal viruses, which are playing havoc in both the veterinary as well as the human world? So we have many, many such cases. In fact, most of the infections, as I said, and I reiterate, they are spread or transmitted from the animals. They are common, and therefore they are transmitted through animals. So some of the most deadly examples, we have rabies, all of you are aware, salmonella, deadly again, deadly bacteria, and the West Nile virus, which is of course by and large, fortunately so far is in India we do not have much prevalence of this, but is restricted. It's not restricted. We have few cases, but it's not playing the. There are no further expansion. So you do not have kind of huge number of cases of such viruses so far in India. So in mainly in Africa, Saharan Africa, so they are the examples of zoonotic diseases. Zoonotic diseases which are common in both animals as well as the human beings. So it might as well happen that in some of the cases, the disease comes first in the animals and then later in the human beings, and therefore they could be taken as a so-called early warning sign. And West Nile virus is an example which comes first. The birds, they start falling ill, and then it is transmitted to further to the human being. So it's a kind of alert also. You have also, you are aware of the many cases of the avian flu, the bird flu viruses which have come in India as well as a kind of warning sign. So all well documented. The left side, top left, you see the rabies, which is essentially, you have, I do not have a count, but it is well documented. Always I keep on reading in the newspapers that the hospitals are falling short of rabies vaccine. Every day, almost every day, there are some 4 or 6 cases. Even if I talk of Jaipur, some 4 or 6 cases of dog bites. So it is happening in huge numbers. It is causing, it's lethal also. It's causing a lot of damage, leading to a lot of deaths also because if vaccination is not taken timely, then you have it. The consequences are then beyond your control. So it's coming through the saliva. Many animals are carrying the saliva. In their saliva, they are carrying the rabies virus. But primarily in the human beings, is coming by way of dog bites. So the zoonotic influenzas, again lethal, very deadly, and most common, or the most common type, we have around 35 lakhs cases of the severe illness, leading to some 500,000 deaths, which are not an ordinary number. And the same thing, this respiratory symptoms, you have fever, we have the documented cases of the disease taking epidemic form as well as the pandemic form. So that's another deadly example, which is very, very commonly spread in the animals as well as the human beings. Then salmonella, multiple sources of infection coming by way of the feces, fecal excreta. It's coming by way of animals also, and then it is being transmitted to the human beings. So again, a very deadly example. And then you have the fourth example, which I gave you, is that of the West Nile virus, which is transmitted, which is transmitted through flies. So from flies, it's going to the birds because birds, I told you, could act as an early warning sign for this as well. And then it can go to the human beings, which is essentially a dead host, is a dead end. Then it's not being transmitted further. So you have some of the most common examples leading to a lot of millions of deaths and a lot of cost, a lot of economic cost in terms of the loss of the manpower hours and so on and so forth, hospitalization cost. Another very simple example, for instance, cow carrying, or any cattle for that matter, carrying the E. coli, grazing in a field next to a crop field. So it grazes, and then from the cow manure, the E. coli is made available in the soil of that area. And when that soil is used as a manure to any crop field, then that crop gets infected. And then from the crop, it goes into the human beings. Consumption of contaminated food, and the person can become infected with E. coli, which in fact can be quite deadly, especially in children. So that's again, I mean, this that is how they are traveling. We have to, as I told you, the purpose of my present lecture is to sensitize you on this very, 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 very hot topic. You have to understand, and then you have to take the relevant precautionary measures or undertake research which can address the holistic issues. So if you have a overall picture of the zoonotic diseases, we have 1 billion who will fall prey to it first. Naturally, those people who are keeping the livestock, isn't it? Those people who keep the cattle, who keep the cows and all these things with them. So they are the first one to be targeted, and they really have to pay a huge cost for this. So we have, so the number is very high, of course, 1 billion poor livestock keepers. And we have 2.3 billion. So not an ordinary figure. I am saying billion. I am not saying million. So 2.3 billion cases of the human illness with 1.7 billion human deaths every year. So in fact, more than 1 in 7 of all livestock per year are infected with in the poor countries because for many reasons you're aware because there the hygiene is not good and there are many issues, malnutrition, many other issues. So we fall prey. The people in the living in the poor countries they are the easiest prey to all this. One more example, which is a very relevant example in the Indian context. The vultures, what you know as gidd, gidd, the vultures. You see, we had 40 million vultures at a time. And out of 40 million, we have just about 19,000. 13 lakh vultures lost their lives every year. This is a data of, let's say, some 20 years. So if you divide that 40 million figure by 20, it would be approximately 13 lakh vultures, which were losing their life every year. And they are very useful. I mean, this issue was brought to light as the case is presently going on in High Court, and the High Court, Delhi High Court, and the High Court has asked the government of India to provide explanation for this in December in 2023 sometime. And therefore, the case was brought to the public notice. People were not aware of it. So imagine how huge the problem is. And these vultures, they are economically very, very friendly to us. They are giving us a lot of things. So, for example, the animal fertilizer production industry, they are including, water provision, waste management, and so on and so forth. So our country is paying a huge cost for this, some $34 billion, is important, $1 billion in damages. So we paid a huge cost. So how it has happened? These group of uh, medicines which were Finex, diclofenac, acetophenac, they are very common and they are very commonly used. So they are highly effective and they are very cheaply available. So they are consumed in large quantities. And as you know, vultures, they uh, they feed the human carcasses, I mean the dead bodies, and that is how it is being transmitted to them, to the vultures. So that's the connect. That's the huge problem because this is very common, as I told you, widely used in human pain to bring down fever, in arthritis, and so on and so forth. So that is the connect, and they are not able to tolerate it. They are not able to tolerate the Fennec group of tablets. So as they fly, then they fall. While flying, they fall. So that is how this happens. Very interesting, but very concerning example also. All of us should be concerned about it. But then after having understood the basic problem, let me try to have a look to make it more comprehensive. I thought we should know some historical facts about it. It was already realized. It was not that we are aware of this today. Maybe we have not taken action. That's a different part of the story. But we were aware of it. As early as 19th century, we had a German pathologist who observed. His quote is that between animal and human medicine, there is no dividing line, nor should there be. So that shows understanding. The object is different, but the experience obtained constitutes the basis of all medicine. So well said. That means the problem understood. And then we have another great physician, Canadian physician, who in fact was one of the founding fathers, founding professor of the John Hopkins Hospital, which is a very famous hospital, one of the premier hospitals in the US. So he also studied the link between human and the animal health. So he understood there is a connect. So we had this kind of understanding, let's say way back in 19th century. But then as the science grew, as we had we were going more and more depths of the human medicine, of human anatomy, of animal medicine, and so on and so forth, we thought that they may be different. We got kind of focused, so we lose track of it. So let's say the great microbiologist revolution of 19th century the biomedical scientists and the biomedical science, they become more specialized. So people, they started to work in isolation. That human beings, okay, is working devoted completely to the human diseases only, to is working, and similarly the veterinarian scientist is working only to deal with the animal diseases and so on. So they parted their ways, and therefore the people did not think of, the organizations did not think of to create, a common organization, but they parted their ways, and separate organizations for human health and for the animals' health, they were created. But then 20th century, again, this was realized that we are somewhere not going in the correct direction. So the gaps in the control of the zoonotic diseases, they were noticed. And then we had Dr. James, who is also known as the father of the veterinary public health. So he introduced the principles of veterinary public health. Again, a great name in the topic of the human health. And then we have, so things, they started to work on the backtrack again. They were moving again in the right direction. So 64, we have Dr. Calvin, who introduced the term one medicine. When he wrote the book, Veterinary Medicine and Human Health, he introduced the term one medicine. So the concept was gradually emerging. And 2004, both human as well as animal health experts, at a symposium which was organized in order to address the wildlife, they extended the concept of one medicine to one health. So that is the origin of this term one health, which of course, as a student of biological science, you should be aware of. Is it what is the history, how it has gradually progressed to the stage that we see today. So component kind of, we have essentially the human activities component, four components, as I would say, where we have to realize at the human activities level, as work scientists working in this area, we have to realize that there has to be integration between the veterinary and the human medicine. It has to be addressed holistically. No, not like this, that this will work only in this and this will work only in that. Then food agricultural system is again a major component. So we have to have a very more comprehensive view of the entire thing. That some crop is growing in a field. And then what happens through the food chain, how it is traveling in the food chain and going to the table, as we say, from farm to fork approach. Finally, when it comes to a table, so how, in what all steps it is passing through? Because unless and until we understand the entire chain of events which is taking place from farm to fork, we will not really be able to address the problem. Geographical component, what is the effect of globalization of animals and animal products? As I already told you, that now there are no bars. In fact, you are aware there are no bars, no restrictions, free trade movement everywhere is happening. So therefore, the greater possibility of migration. So this has led to a need of what we call the supranational approach, that we should constitute certain regions. For instance, SARC, as you know, SARC is a regional group of countries. You have Sri Lanka, you have Pakistan, you have Nepal, Bhutan, India, and Bangladesh, something like that. So you have to have a regional approach based on a group of countries which are experiencing the similar kind of climate, similar kind of diseases. So that kind of supranational approach should be developed to address these problems. And the ecological component, which is of course very important. In fact, we talked about that also. So that is important in the climate changes and so on and so forth. This is very important. Scope, essentially, major areas. What are the major areas? You have to, of course, if you want to address it, we have to harness the expertise. Expertise, because it requires, if I am a veterinary scientist, And if I'm doing only veterinary and I understand only veterinary things, or I'm a human scientist working in the area of human medicines and working again in isolation, it won't work. We have to harness the expertise which is available, develop a scientific pool of the manpower who understand the veterinary as well as the human medicine field. Then only they would be able to address. In fact, there are now many branches like this, but this has more challenges, greater challenges. For instance, you are aware of bioinformatics. You may be working in biological sciences, you still may not be able to, you may not be a good bioinformatician. If you are working in IT sector, if you are working in, let's say, informatics sciences, if you are working in the statistics area, again, alone, you will not be able to address the problems relevant to bioinformatics. You have to come together because if you have to do something innovative, something challenging, address the problems in bioinformatics, you have to understand the statistics, you have to understand the computer science, you have to understand a bit of mathematics also, and you have to understand the biological science. If you are not fit, if you are not, do not have the basic knowledge, then you will not be able to handle this challenging branch, which you call as the bioinformatics. So that's the situation. And this is more challenging because this would involve integration of many more disciplines. So therefore, we call this a transdiscipline. It's not even multidiscipline. It's encompassing the boundaries of disciplines. So it's therefore, so that, we have to therefore harness the expertise, many different expertise before we are able to address the problem, optimize resources and efficient delivery mechanisms. So what are the major areas which need to be addressed? Zoonosis is a major problem. So control of zoonosis. There is common diseases between animals and the human beings. AMR, antimicrobial resistance. It's a big issue. It's a real menace, which is, uh, leading to a lot of problems. Antibiotics given, but no improvement. So this has become very, very prevalent. There are many reasons for it. I do not really want to go into it, but this is a problem. All of you are aware of it. Emerging infections, new infections, COVID-19 we had. Then the climate change is again, we have talked about global trade and commerce. And then the food safety, the last one. So it's a many, many parts of it. Many problems need to be addressed. I would elaborate a little more from the perspective of food safety further in my further slides. So potential areas we have kind of talked about: communicable diseases, AMRs. All right, communicable diseases, the first example we had the COVID-19, the AMRs, for instance, the penicillin and ampicillin, they are ineffective in India's population, 80% population infected by Staphylococcus strain. So problem is huge. Food safety and security, environmental factors, and the another category which needs to be addressed is the NCDs, the non-communicable diseases. So what we can do about this, food safety and One Health? What are the major issues? Because food is the most common source, the way the diseases are being migrating, the chain of microbes. So food safety is of paramount importance. It's our fundamental. And the food scenario, as you know, has become more and more complex for many factors which we talked about. For example, again, if you, let's say, travel to Europe, sometimes in 80s or even 90s, and if you have gone to Germany, countries like, leave aside UK, because UK had a lot of Indian population earlier also, but if you were traveling to the countries like Germany and France and these countries, it would be very, very difficult to you to go find Indian food or Indian restaurant. But that's not the case now. You find now many. You have no problems. You find there all kinds of, at least you get the raw material. You can go to many shops, even in the malls, which big shops and so on. You find that all kinds of Indian spices and this, everything is happening. So times have changed because of this international trade. So therefore, changing demographics, migrations have led to change demographic of that country. That earlier we thought that okay, uh, X country has 99% white population, and now that country has only 80% white population, 20% are browns or Negroes, and vice versa. So because of this, a lot of demographic changes have occurred, and that also would lead to migration of the pathogens you see. Urbanization, I don't think I need to spell on this. Changing lifestyle, evolving consumer preferences, economic imperatives, technological advancement, climate change, emergence and re-emergence of new pathogens. So these are the challenges, which broadly come and which I think most of you, you understand. The meaning is self-explanatory. When I talk of the changing food habits, you know what I'm talking about. All these, fast foods and so on. So all this is part of this. You have so many processed foods also. Because now you don't really have to, let's say, always go to the vegetable market and buy fresh vegetables. You can buy everything frozen and just put it in the oven for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, depending upon the protocol given, recommendations, and then you have it. But all these have costs. Processed foods have costs. Processed foods have its own costs, high in sodium, etc. Right? And so you know that. So they are. So therefore, it is recommended that you should eat fresh foods. You should not eat processed foods for many reasons. But they are leading to consequences. They have the consequences. So, what is the burden? 1 in 10, they fall ill. So, as a consequence, 33 million healthy life years are lost. I am talking of because of the food-borne diseases. I'm not touching anything else now. Specifically focusing on food. All right. So food-borne diseases can be deadly, and more so, of course, because children are always more prone to it. More deadly in children. So we have, you know, uh, some 4,20,000 food-borne diseases, deaths resulting because of the food-borne diseases, and of course, 1/3, the major population of that happens to be children of less than 5 years. So it's just to give you a glimpse of the situation, glimpse of the picture of a trailer of the problem that we have in the area of the food-borne diseases, what kind of menace it is playing in our society. And to name a few, all these are food-borne diseases coming out of, let us say, I mean, ultimately, the link is animals. I'm talking of link between the animals and the human beings. So these products, dairy products, bread, etc., etc. One group, meat, another group. So many different kind of diseases, but having origin, having link with the animals, not with what I've shown on the top that bread or butter or milk, etc. They are coming from animals. So they have their burden from the animals, which is transmitted to the human beings, like listeriosis, tuberculosis, Q fever, brucellosis, campylobacteriosis, toxoplasmosis, cystic fibrosis, bovine spongiform encephalopathy, gynecocasis, trichinosis. So, I mean, this is just only few diseases which I named, which have that link. So this kind of I already told, it's a real challenge. I gave you the example of iron from it. It's also that you have you have disciplinary courses. Disciplinary, all right. So disciplinary courses is the one which is homogeneous in respect to its contents, the area which it addresses. Then you have the interdisciplinary courses, which are the common areas picked up from two disciplines. So it becomes interdisciplinary. Then you have multidisciplinary courses, isn't it? Where several disciplines they are merging together with each other, and several disciplines have to be studied simultaneously. Then it becomes multidisciplinary. Not that interdisciplinary that you pick this or that, pick X of one Y of Z, Y of the other, and then it becomes interdisciplinary. So, but then this is transdisciplinary. That is beyond even multidisciplinary. You have to have approach of many disciplines and think beyond. Then it becomes a transdisciplinary area to be addressed. If this area is to be addressed, you have to have a transdisciplinary kind of approach. So, what is the cost which the society has to pay if the pathogen, because if we have better surveillance systems, then this won't happen. But because this area of One Health is not grown, we do not have a better health surveillance systems. So therefore, we have to pay the damage. We do not understand it fully. Let's say the story begins exposure in animals. Next stage would be clinical science. The animals would develop clinical science. Then it reaches to the human beings. And then you have the clinical science in humans, and then the human medical care. So these would be the steps. If the disease is of animal origin, these would be essentially the steps. So before it is manifested in human beings, normally it already has expanded, it has affected a lot of people, and then only it is to be addressed. But if we are able to, address the problem right at stage one, that is where initial exposure in animals, then we save all this cost. It's a huge cost. The cost gradually escalate as you detect later. More and more late you are in detection, more and more late you are in treatment, and more late you are in restricting its expansion further to a larger population. So one has to really pay heavy cost. So therefore, we have to understand this science. So essentially, you have a red cross from diseased animals, it's going to the food animals. That's the cycle. That's the web of food chain that you have. Food-borne infections. So from the diseased animals going to the food animals, then to food products, and then to human beings. But then they are interconnected. That from manure or from plant-derived products or animal feed, wild animals, food animals fluctuating between them, because disease do not restrict that this will happen only in the food animal, it won't happen in the wild. So they have an interconnect there also. So this is the kind of the web chain which you have to understand if you want to holistically address the issues. What role the environment plays? A major role. Just two examples. One is of pesticides. Pesticides we are indiscriminately using in order to enhance the productivity for the control of the pests so that we get healthy crop. But it has consequences. Similarly, the pollutants. We have the environmental pollutants, the heavy metals, industrial waste. It's all finding their way into the water resources. And from there on, where it goes, nobody knows. It's going everywhere from that point. So two major menaces, two major problems, which have taken, huge form. So over the years, if we see, let's say we have some 36% rise in the use of pesticides. So 2000 to 2012 comes to 4.2 million tons globally now. So this is pesticide use for the productivity, to enhance the productivity. Good, fine. It has led to growth of some, around 54% as the figure. That is one factor, of course, pesticide. Other modern agriculture farming practices, together with the use of pesticides, have led to some 54% enhancement in our productivity levels in terms of crops. So pesticide is one factor. So good. It is leading to contributing to enhanced productivity. But then what is the drawback? What is the misuse? The same thing is leading to a leading is playing a environmental havoc. For instance, it is leading cancer cases which we have in Punjab. They have sometimes they had to start a special train from one weekly train taking the cancer patients to Bombay for their treatment. And what was the reason? Punjab is the state where there is the highest produce per unit area of the crop, and is also the state, unfortunately, where the maximum use of pesticide in order to enhance the crop productivity occurs. And the link between the high prevalence of cancer cases in Punjab was found to be the indiscriminate use of pesticides, because most of the persons who were infected by this were farmers. So see the menace it plays. So it's exposure to food consumers, first to the growers, the farmers, then to the food consumers, and many things happen. Biodiversity, loss of biodiversity, loss of many pests, insects, so many things, loss of fish, mammals, birds, and other. So many things are happening because of this so-called use led to higher productivity, but led to a lot of deaths and a major environmental menace. AMR is a real problem now. The antibiotics are not affecting people. So it's a silent pandemic. We can call this as silent pandemic. 1.27 million deaths in a year because no antibiotic is working. So it's a result of overuse and inappropriate use of antimicrobial medicines, and 73% of the antimicrobial medicines are used in food producing animals. So imagine the link now. Coming back to the topic which we are discussing. So what is the link? They are used where? They are used in food producing animals, cow, buffaloes, and so on and so forth. So that is how they travel. In sub-Saharan Africa, we have the highest human disease burden from AMR. So it's not restricted just to India. It's a global menace everywhere. If in the map you look, China, I think, in the map, if you have the idea of geography, where China is shown, you have the largest red circle there. India, again, is not much behind. But this is a global menace. Even countries like USA and Canada, you find a big red. So this is indiscriminate use of the antibiotics, common to both animals as well as the human beings, and one of the causes of the AMR resistance. So there is a model, which has been created to what we call as the burden of illness pyramid. So it's a model to understand foodborne diseases reporting, that how foodborne diseases are reported. What is the mechanism? So through a pyramid, it is explained. First step, go to the bottom of the pyramid, exposure in the general population. Step one, person becomes ill, person consults a doctor, the specimen, blood sample or urine sample or whatever is obtained. There are lab tests for the organism. Then the laboratory confirms the case. There is a laboratory survey. Then only it is reported to the health department, the last step. And that is the beginning of the surveillance. So we are very late in surveillance. So therefore, we have to pay huge cost in terms of the losses, economic losses. If we talk of India, India has not given due attention to foodborne infections. This graph shows very well. So the yellow one you find in the graph, the deaths because of the diarrheal diseases. The diarrheal diseases reported yellow. And the red one, not deaths, but illness. The red line which you see in the graph, in the histogram, red shows the illness because of the foodborne diseases. So it's not far behind. Diarrhea, as you know, is one of the most common because unhygienic conditions and so many things are there. But then foodborne diseases are not far behind, and our country has to pay a huge cost of some 28 billion dollars. That means multiplied by 85. So imagine. So not ensuring, therefore, the safety of the foods can be very costly. So by 2030, Indian population will touch approximately 1.53 billion in terms of numbers, and the GDP would be approximately $20 trillion, and then approximately 17 crore. It's not an ordinary figure. 17 crore Indians are likely to suffer from the foodborne diseases. So it's a major chunk. It's a major chunk which is causing the diseases, overall diseases in India. Food is a major partner, is a major reason for it. And in terms of the money, the economic losses, the damages which the country incurs because of that, again, from 7 to 8.4 billion US dollars, again multiply by 85. So we have, if we talk, let us say, if we have a comprehensive view of this, we have strengths, of course, a food secure nation. Food secure nation, we say that we have sufficient productivities. We are independent in terms of our food security in addressing our food problems. We are able to grow enough. So if we are a food secure nation, we don't have to import the things from outside. Increased consumer awareness and buying capacity. All right, good. We know much more now that this to eat, this not to eat. Of course, we may still eat, but we know at least. Cooking habits, it's again good because we cook the food. So cooking kills a lot of microbes. This doesn't happen in European countries, for instance. They serve at least the dinner time is usually they serve cold. Even if depending, irrespective of vegetarian, non-vegetarian, dinner time usually, unless it's a weekend and they have more time in partying or gossiping with each other. Generally, on the weekdays, you find in European countries the dinner is served cold. So we have good cooking habits. Then we have good now advent of what we call as the FS, Food Safety Standard Authority of India, FSSAI era, which has a potential for one-stop solution. And then we have more and more players, more and more companies are coming up who are into food manufacturing, and they are ready to comply with the safety standards, with the hygienic standards. But then majority of the food sector is unorganized. That's a real problem. Majority of the food sector is still unorganized. I mean, all of you know what I'm saying. If you have to, eat tikki or you golgappa or anything you want to eat, you go to not to the organized sector, you go to roadside shelf. In fact, on the road where I lived in Vaishali Nagar, in the evening time there are some 150 thelawalas on left and right side of the road. People know. Dr. Ravi will know. I mean, people know that, yes. So they are all all unorganized sector, there is no control of hygiene, no control of the kind of oil they are using, etc., etc. Isn't it? So most of that's the real problem, real challenge. Most of it, majority of it, food sector is unorganized, under-equipped, understaffed. Food safety regulatory system. There could be you can create good laws, but you have to monitor, isn't it? You have to regulate. Unawareness of public on many issues and insufficient implementation of the regulators. So these are some real challenges. So therefore, the advantages, therefore, the One Health approach is a kind of, I would say, I've been telling the advantages in piecemeals is a kind of sum up slide for that. That timely detection and response, we talked about it. Enhanced collaboration between various health sectors, isn't it? Not that, no, I am only veterinary, no, I am only human. They have to come together. Improved management, knowledge, capacity, and skill development that helps to earn final benefits to improved health and economic efficiency. Enhanced public health efficacy, obviously, because if we do that, then we are more accountable and we manage better. We have to focus on zoonotic, diseases, which are the most common kind. They can be focused only when we have One Health. Ecosystem, again, major problem. We have to address that ecosystem. Promotion of cost-effective analysis. And the One Health approach would deal with the risk of an epidemic, endemic, and pandemic diseases in a more comprehensive way, because if everything is well organized under one umbrella, they don't have to communicate and talk with each other and get permissions. And, so all these things would not happen. They would be able to take, if they are under one command, then they would be able to take instant decisions in order to address the menace of a disease. Unfortunately, however, we do not have a single system that is existing. We have systems that do incorporate foodborne illnesses, but they are not sufficient because you have so many outbreaks which are happening. That means they are not doing their work properly. Agencies which are responsible for quality control and safety, they face a huge task. As I told you, 150, these unorganized sector is so uncontrollable. Who is going to control all that? Are you going to stop it altogether? So it's giving employment to so many people. There are huge problems. Political problems are also there. Often isolated from one another, disconnect results in compartmentalized approach to food safety. So this, I would say, would be what it is leading to. What One Health would leading to, but by and large, they have said it at different points of time. So I need not, once again detail it, that how it can better address new disease emergencies, how the integrated surveillance system would improve, how it is real world effectiveness, and how we can lead to quicker and the coordinated response. But it has nevertheless limitations because we have standardized methods so far. We need to research more to measure the complexity of the benefits achieved from the holistic approach. All right, we need to work more because the lethality of a disease in animal beings and human beings, etc., so many issues are there. Lack of systematic methodology to prove the nature of health impacts across the animal and human health sectors, lack of agreement on the leadership issues, resource affiliation, work distribution, so many administrative hierarchical problems, as you call them. Insufficient indicators and measures of health related to science. Okay, so this I think I can skip. So how we can ensure One Health in the current world? What measures need to be taken? So essentially, we can discuss this. So One Health, healthy ecosystems, healthy animals. In the center, if you see, center of the slide, which is projected, center bottom, and healthy human beings, three major components. So for that, both societies and sectors and disciplines have to come together. Society, by and large, plays a very important role at a regional level, at a global level, at a local level, at a national level. Inclusivity, equity, and access, irrespective of rural, urban, mobile communities. So they have to come together and coordinate and then they have to communicate with each other and lead to capacity building, how to address the problem. And similarly, different sectors like environment, human, animal, this we've talked, they have to coordinate and come together and collaborate. And this capacity building eventually would lead to success in the direction of One Health. There are, nevertheless, some recent efforts done in particular by the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR, which is a government body. So they have tried to address some of these problems. So medical sector, we have a project called as the Integrated Disease Surveillance Project, IDSP, which has been precisely formed to look into the common diseases, zoonotic type of disease. In the veterinary sector, again, there is a body called as National Disease Reporting System, NAGRS, essentially ICR. These are Indian Council of Agricultural Research organizations or the project coordinating bodies. We have another one, which is National Animal Disease Referral Expert System, NADRES. So these are again ICR organizations. So trying to monitor, trying to find out what is happening. So these efforts are there. We also have disease surveillance in the other forms, which has been the task has been given to some of the ICR institutions in India. For example, IVRI is one, Indian Veterinary Research Institute, which has been, looking into the zoonotic diseases. The open platform for zoonotic disease, OPZD. Then we have another task which has been given to NIVEDI, which is National Institute of Veterinary Epidemiology and Disease Informatics. The ICR Institute, I think based in Bangalore. So they are doing this job. They are working on epidemic diseases. And then we have the NIHSAD, National Institute of High Security Animal Diseases, who are looking into the newly emerging exotic diseases. So these are the task force or the institutions who are now trying to monitor what is happening in these sectors. These are having representatives from the veterinarian as well as from the human medical scientists. And finally, so these are some of the developments which I thought are worthwhile to share with you, that what is going on in the contemporary scenario. Of course, nothing is complete about Ayush, but it really one has to see that how it can contribute, because it's as you know, it's a comprehensive alternative medicine package. As the alternative medicines are getting very popular these days. Of course, the major component of this Ayush system is Ayurveda. It has other systems also, Unani medicines, acupuncture, is everything. It possesses significant infrastructure in our country, human resources and unique modalities. So therefore it can contribute. And it more or less believes that all that exists in universe also exists in an individual. मतलब सारा संसार हमारे अंदर भी है. That is what the real philosophy. Ayush aligns with One Health approach, contributing to addressing zoonotic diseases, NCDs, AMR, food safety, and diverse population health. And as you know, it is more preventive. It's less therapeutic, more preventive. And so this integration of, can we utilize this Ayush infrastructure, which is a very good infrastructure available all over the country, in order to address One Health problems also. So that is also where some effort is going on now by the government bodies. So if successful, it is definitely going to have a potent role finally in all areas. In preventive, as you know, it advocates Ayurveda, yoga, they are essentially preventive measures. Good lifestyle, restraint in life, in exercise, diet, stress management, and so on and so forth. Promote preventive care so that the disease does not occur, isn't it? You heard of so many, I mean, it has pitfalls also. So many different type of kadas, which have come during the COVID time. So everybody was drinking kada. And I don't know how many pollutants also they were in that because they were not controlled at that time. Because the major problem there is that it is less controlled. As the allopathic medicine, they have very stringent system of control. So we have to have a more regulatory system also there. But then it definitely is an excellent preventive medicine and can work wonders without bringing any side effects. Okay. So then natural remedies, it believes, therefore it is without side effects because a lot of natural remedies, herbal products, plant products, and so on and so forth. It addresses the AMRs because you are, reducing your dependency on the antibiotics. So if if you are using less of the antibiotics, then naturally the chances of developing AMRs would be less. So environmental and animal health, total environment that we have to live in tune with nature. We should not deviate from nature. So animals and human beings, they should live in harmony, isn't it? So one has to always live in tune with nature, not damage nature, not destroy nature. Isn't it? As you must be hearing all the time that even vegetables, etc., which we eat should be seasonal, isn't it? They give you the best results, so on and so forth. So one has to be in tune with nature, what is being produced at that time, that point of time in nature, that should be consumed. And we have to work in interaction, in harmony, and not as, kind of, I would say, any enemy of or indifferent towards each other. So that kind of thing. So therefore, this has a hope for addressing the environmental and the health issues as well, uh, I think holistically. So I think that is all from my side. So this can also Ayush approach contribution can also provide a lot of inputs. So I think this happened to be the last slide, I believe. So here we are. Thank you.
Can we have one photograph together?
Sure, sure.
So please come. I request all the participants who are online to kindly switch on your camera so that we can have a group photograph. Everyone kindly switch on your cameras. Connection unstable? No, no, sir, it's there. Everyone, please switch on your cameras. Yes. Everyone, please switch on your cameras. Shweta ma'am, are we ready? वो तो चलता ही रहता है. Some of them they put on them. I request all of you who are online to kindly switch on your cameras for a group photograph. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for such an elaborate talk on One Health perspectives. Sir explained us with all the nitty-gritties of zoonotic diseases and how foodborne illnesses can be traced back to environmental contamination, especially soil by microorganisms. It was real food for our brain, sir. Thank you so much. Now the session is open for question answers. Anyone here? Please ask questions. Yes. Those of you who are online, please put your questions in the chat so that we can take up one by one.
Good morning, sir, and everyone who's sitting here. I'm Jahnavi from BTech Biotechnology Semester 1. My hands are literally shaking, so don't mind me. So, when you're saying about antimicrobial resistance and the yoga and all, so issue came to my mind. I don't know if it's similar to the topic or not, but I think you're the one who can just clarify this. I mean, microbial chips are like so popular these days for uterus infections and all. So I want to have a say of yours on the topic because you think it affects environment and the human as also the brain chips also being developed. So I don't understand which one has the say, like is it positive or negative? Is it even used for us? I want to say on that because as a semester one student, I don't know how this indulges in everyone's mind, but you are the most intelligent and who can acknowledge us. So please, sir.
I think I should address
Yes,
it.
yes, sir, please.
So good, Janvi. I think actually the question as such is not related to AMR. They are independent. First, let me clarify. Because AMR is developing because of the indiscriminate use of antibiotics. And that is leading to mutations and changes in the microbial stream and so on and so forth. And they develop in their genome, they develop resistant regions for that particular antibiotic. So that is the way it happens. So we are using a lot of antibiotics indiscriminately in both animals and as well as in the human beings, which have a common link, common antibiotics, and therefore it is leading to further spread of what we call as the uh, antibiotic microbial resistance, AMR. So that is the cause of it, the AMR issue, and which of course I have given you the data 80% for Staphylococcus and so on and so on. Now the question which you are actually so it is not really linked, but it's fine. It's a good question, and I can express my views on this. Not a problem. I think we should always welcome these solid discoveries in modern human, in modern science. Nothing wrong in that. If there are brain chips developed, why not? Let's use it. Isn't it? It's not in clash with Ayurveda or our natural system. I don't think it's in clash with it. It's a advancement in science or microbial chips if we are using, and if it is bringing about some benefit to the human health, why not? Let's use it. You see, we of course allopathy, I say, is given us so many wonder drugs. Nobody can deny that. But it is also a fact that as we pass with time, today, for instance, some good so-called wonder drug has been introduced in the market. But as we pass with time, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 30 years, and so on and so forth, then we start realizing that no, this antibiotic has such a side effect, this drug has such a side effect, therefore it should be banned. And if you really go into the history of the allopathic medicines, you find that many of the so-called drugs which were wonder drugs when they were introduced, were banned after 10 years, after 15 years, after 20 years. Isn't it? I mean, it's a common knowledge because every day, every alternate day, you keep on hearing in the newspapers that now this drug has been banned. And I think the other day we talked about this acid-based drugs, they have also been banned, for instance, which were, so commonly used in killing pains, etc. So that's the negative part of it. And therefore, when it is the question of life and death, we have to use it, of course. And this I am saying for many, many drugs, but many drugs have not found with the side effects and so on. Maybe they were not used so much, etc. You see, the allopathic medicines, they are working, they are not addressing the problem holistically. For example, any allergy, you immediately take antihistamines. All allergic drugs, they are working on the principle of that they are antihistamines. They block the formation of histamines in your body. And therefore the allergy is gone. But then histamine has so many other benefits. It's such a vital chemical compound to your body. It's playing an essential role in so many other processes, metabolic processes, which are going on in your body. Consequence, they are also blocked. So therefore the side effect. Because you are not specifically able to target the drug only to that localized point. It blocks the histamine synthesis throughout the body, irrespective whether it is causing allergy or it is used in an essential metabolite. Cholesterol lowering drugs, for instance, anti-cholesterol, doctors advocate that cholesterol level must not be allowed to be high, etc., and you have anti-cholesterol drugs. They are also working on the same principle. The principle is they inhibit the biosynthesis of cholesterol. But cholesterol has so many other benefits, So it is causing the inhibition of the biosynthesis of cholesterol irrespective of whether in the arteries where it could be harmful or otherwise. Therefore, the side effect. So unless the allopathic drugs address the problem holistically means unless they are very specifically target based, which is almost very, very difficult that they could be so localized, so specific in their targets. So that doesn't happen, and therefore you have the side effects. In this respect, you can say that the alternative medicine, because they don't have side effects, therefore that is the advantage the alternative medicines have. Now, this is one aspect of the modern medicine, which you call as the medicine. The other aspect is surgery. Modern medicine aspect you can criticize, and we, of course, make use of a lot of medicines, especially when there is a question of life and death. But one should try to avoid indiscriminate use of these medicines, which therefore has also led to the AMR. AMR issue has been led because, over the counter, I will, a few more minutes, in a couple of minutes, I'll give you one example, which I have myself, experienced. Way back in I think I recall 85. I was very young at that time. I was in Germany. And malarial drugs, malaria, queen on tablets are being used. Chemaquine or chloroquine, all these are very common. And you go to any doctor, any medicine shop there and ask him, give me the chemaquine because I feel like I am shivering, I am having high fever, so it looks like malaria, please give me medicine. So I had the same feeling there in Germany. When it happened second day, I had shivering, I had high fever. So I have gone to the medicine shop. So I asked, give me chemaquine. So the shop owner, the pharmacist told me that no, it is not allowed. We cannot give you chemaquine unless you have a medical prescription, doctor's prescription. Only on that we can give you. Fair enough. I said, no problem. Close to the place where I was living was the doctor. So I took an appointment. I've gone to the doctor. Lady doctor was there. So I told that, what all this nonsense? I have gone to the pharmacist and I am having malaria, shivering, and this. I wanted to have Camaguin, and this fellow is not giving, and he is asking that I should be given the medical prescription. So please write Camaguin so that I can go and buy. So she told me, oh, what are you talking, Dr. Sharma? I cannot write unless I have a confirmatory blood test that malarial parasite is in your body. But then we are into indiscriminate. So they're very carefully, very careful. But we go to the pharmacy shop कि नहीं ये हो रहा है, ये है, वो है, ये एंटीबायोटिक दे दो, गले में खराब एरिथ्रोमाइसिन दे दो, ये दे दो. Most of the time, many times we are not needed and we are just buying. So all that is naturally playing havoc, and many of these antibiotics are broad spectrum antibiotics, as we know. So they play havoc with so many other things also. So far, the medicine part of it, but this modern medicine has given, modern medical sciences have given, almost huge, advantages also. Surgery, for instance, you can't beat surgery. Surgery has saved so many lives who could then have a full life for years together, decades together. So in surgery, and similarly, because I brought this example of the brain chips which you talked about, or these, pacemakers, etc., etc. So nothing wrong in that. I mean, we should adopt, if we are saying that Ayurveda or our natural this is good, we should adopt. It doesn't say we should stop having the modern medical practices. Modern inventions of science, many of them are great and they are doing very good to our system, to our health overall. So you have to always be judicious and not be governed by some beliefs or some faiths that no, we should not use this or we should not use that, etc. All right, I think that answers your question. Okay, Janvi, okay, it's fine. Okay, good.
Any question from audience? Anyone else would like to ask any question? No. Anyone online? If you have any question, you can raise your hand if you would like to ask question directly. Okay, we have shared the feedback form also. So everyone please fill the feedback form. I don't see any questions in the chat box as of now. So if you want anyone to ask question, please raise your hands. This is the last chance to ask question. Anyone? Okay, so no questions from the audience right now. I would like to add upon what sir mentioned. I think, sir, if you agree with me, we will be going to that pre-antibiotic era for post-operative care if we do not stop this indiscriminate use of antibiotics, because this antimicrobial resistance menace can be so dangerous in the future that we will not be able to perform any surgeries, because post-operative care always require antimicrobial therapy, and that won't be possible if antibiotic resistance is so high. So with these words, I request Dr. Anuradha Saini, coordinator of the Advanced Training Program, to propose a vote of thanks to sir. Thank you so much, sir, for such an elaborate lecture. Good morning, all of you.
I hope you all had a nice morning. On behalf of the organizing committee and audience, I thank the speaker of the day, Professor Vinay Sharma sir, for the valuable information that he shared with us today. Thank you, sir, for this wonderful and knowledgeable lecture on exploring one's health in the world of the food safety. Sir enlightened us with the importance of different components in health, also explained the different factors that affect human and animal health, for example, human population, climatic changes, and international travel and trade. Sir also depicted the relation between the human, animal, and environment with health. Sir described the case of E. coli, how E. coli transmit from cows to human beings. Furthermore, Sir acquainted with the components of One Health approach, for example, human activities, food, agricultural system, geographical, and ecological. Sir guided us with the potential area related to the One Health approach and current threats. Sir also explained about the food safety, which is global burning issue, and due to the foodborne diseases, 33 million healthy life years lost. Furthermore, Sir also explained how increased pesticide use impacts the human environment and animal health, and elaborated with the example of Punjab state. In addition, Sir also depicted about the strengths and weaknesses of the food safety in India, limitation of one's health approach, ways to ensure one health, and how we can address one health with Ayush system. Sir concluded his lecture by elaborating the potential roles of Ayush in the One Health approach. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your time. What's Pendrive? Pendrive.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Sir,